So Gilbert Burns has tested positive for the old Rona syndrome, and because of that has been pulled from his bout with Kamaru Usman in the main event of UFC 251 Fight Island. It would have been amazing if that headliner were to kick off the Fight Island cards. However, we're going to have to roll with the punches because Kamaru Usman is not going to be fighting at UFC 251. I know all of a sudden Jorge Masvidal was okay with his payment situation and ready to jump in on a week's notice when he wasn't ready to jump in on a full camp's notice, because that makes sense, doesn't it, Jorge the hypocrite Masvidal? But still, Colby Covington also offered his services, and to be honest with you, you kind of got to believe Colby more than you do Masvidal, because Colby's made that walk with Kamaru Usman before, and in some people's eyes was winning the fight 3-1, in other people's eyes was drawing the fight 2-2 going into that 5th round. So both guys have offered their services. Their services are not going to be required at UFC 251 because Usman has not got on the plane to go to 251 because of the news of Gilbert Burns testing positive, which is unfortunate, but we're going to have Holloway versus Volkanovski as the main event. I'm down with that. It's got a decent co-main event of Aldo versus Yan. I mean, we just came off the back of UFC 250, which is main event was Amanda Nunes versus Felicia Spencer. So this is only an up from there. Even though the rest of the card isn't as stacked as UFC 250 was, I'm still down with watching UFC 251. It's a great card. I'm sure we can roll with the punches here. Now, the big narrative that I've seen, I've read 2 articles so far, one on Latest MMA News and one on somewhere else. It might have been Bloody Elbow or MMA Mania. One of those 2 websites. They've ended it by saying that Usman will now be looking to rebook his bout, his title defense, a different event against a different opponent. I don't think that should happen. I'll be honest with you guys. Before the fight between Kamaru Usman and Gilbert Burns was announced, I didn't care for it whatsoever, to be honest with you. Before Gilbert Burns beat Tyron Woodley, it wasn't even in my mind. But when he beat Tyron Woodley, I was like, okay, but let's make sure we get Masvidal versus Usman done. But when they signed the bout between Burns and Usman, I thought to myself, Burns beats him. I even predicted that Burns was going to beat Kamaru Usman. I thought it was a live underdog. Gilbert Burns, it was a really intriguing matchup. 2 evenly matched guys in different areas. They have the skills. Usman has the size, but Burns has the jiu-jitsu for when Usman gets on top of him. There was answers that Burns had for some of the problems that Usman gives to other fighters in that welterweight division, and I was very, very excited and intrigued. I don't think we should give up on the promotion we've done so far, and this is where I'm going to put my businessman hat on. I think we should rebook Usman's title defense, but against Gilbert Burns at a different location. I don't think Masvidal wants to step in. I really don't think that's the case. He's just going to try and step in, but say, you know what, give me $1 million. He knows that the UFC is in a dire situation right now. They need Usman to fight someone at UFC 251, so I'm assuming Masvidal was hoping by offering his services, and maybe Colby was hoping this as well, which I'm sure Colby was hoping this as well. No one wants to fight for the world title on a week's notice, even if they have done it before, or even if they are fighters. They know their best chance at beating Kamaru Usman is to have a full camp, not to let him have a full camp while they only have a week's notice. That would just make no sense, and it would be a terrible business move. So, I don't want to see it rebooked with a different opponent. I want to see Usman versus Burns. I don't know if anyone else is with me here, because a lot of people might be looking at this like, thank God, we don't have to see Burns versus Usman, we can actually see Usman versus Masvidal. I understand that, but I'm very excited, and I've been royally blueballed right now, I'll be honest with you guys. I don't like this. I've been blueballed. I was really looking forward to this. I want to move this event, not this event, this fight between Kamaru Usman and Gilbert Burns, give Gilbert Burns however much time he needs to get the old Rona syndrome out of his system. I understand, deal with it as you will. I know Jacare went through the same thing. I'm not sure if Jacare is cleared to fight again, but still, it doesn't stay in your system for too long. We've got time to recover from this. Give Gilbert Burns some time. Keep giving him a couple tests every now and again throughout the week. See when it's left his system, and then we can try and rebook this, because right now there's a problem. We have a lot of fights that we can make. We have Adesanya versus Costa. We have Khabib versus Gaethje, but, you know, who knows what's going to happen there. Rest in peace, Abdulmanap Nurmagomedov. However, we've got Khabib versus Gaethje, potentially. We've got Adesanya versus Costa. I think Khabib Gaethje will still happen, but we've got Adesanya Costa. We've got Jones probably looking to come back around November versus December. I'm not buying the whole thing that Jones is doing right now. He's going to come back and defend his fucking belt, as usual. Probably against Jan Blachowicz, but he just doesn't want to tell us that. He's got to make some big narrative around it first, because if he just announces that he's fighting Jan Blachowicz, no one will care. Other than the hardcores, of course, but, you know, he's got to create headlines in another way and then use those momentum of the headlines to build into the Jan Blachowicz announcement, which will probably come around November or December. We've got a problem though. Who's going to co-main event Stipe versus DC? Because it's not going to be John Jones. We've got the featherweight belt on the line next weekend, or this weekend now. We've got the flyweight belt on the line next weekend in the middle of the week. We've got the bantamweight belt on the line coming up soon. Like, we've got a lot of guys booked up, and I don't know what the co-main event of Stipe versus DC is going to be, but I hope it wasn't planning to be Valentina Shevchenko versus Joanne Calderwood. So, Usman versus Burns. In hindsight, probably wasn't the best main event of a pay-per-view in the world, which is why there are 3 title fights on that card as well to help boost those pay-per-view numbers up. But Usman versus Burns is a solid co-main event for Stipe versus DC3 at UFC 252. Let's just push this back a little bit, and you know what? Let's take advantage of Masvidal and Colby being in the headlines at the same time, and finally make, because Tyron Woodley didn't call out Colby Covington when he was asked who he wanted next, I feel like Tyron Woodley's going to want to take some guy on just to get a win back under his sails, get some wind behind his sails, get the momentum going again, and then he's going to look for some of these top contenders. I think Woodley's just interested in a win right now to maybe convince him that he's still got it, and then he's going to try and take on these top contenders. So you know what? Colby versus Masvidal in the meantime. Amazing fight to make. That needs to be made at some point, whether the belt is on the line or not. But if it has to be without the belt on the line, I'll take it so long as that fight happens, because we've already missed out on Khabib versus Ferguson. Like, I'm not missing out on other great matchups that possibly could happen. So let's just do Masvidal versus Covington for the title shot. It'd be a huge payday for both of them, I'm sure. It'd probably give Masvidal the money that he wants, because let's face it, I think Masvidal versus Covington would sell more pay-per-views than Masvidal versus Usman. I really do believe that, just because of how much Covington is going to put into the building of that fight as well, because Usman is a big name. He's a champion. But he's not going to create the pay-per-view. He has the pay-per-view buyers that he already has. He's not going to raise those numbers in the promotion. Colby will do that. You know? So that's why I want to see Colby versus Masvidal. And let's just rebook Usman versus Burns in the co-main event of UFC 252 and make an amazing card at UFC 252 instead. We don't have to scrap this fight. It's already made. Both guys have already agreed to it. Just give Burns some time to get it out of his system. Wait till he tests negative, and then get him back in there. And we'll make the title shot. We just did this with Jose Aldo, a fellow Brazilian getting a title shot, by the way. He was going to fight Henry Cejudo. Rona situation came up. He wasn't allowed to fight Henry Cejudo. The company felt so strongly about not denying him a title shot that they've already given him, that they gave it him again against Petr Yan, even though it made 0 sense whatsoever. Let's do that with Gilbert Burns as well. It ain't one rule for Aldo and one rule for Gilbert Burns. By the way, Burns is the #1 contender and should arguably get the title shot anyway. And Aldo's #6. You know, give Burns a title shot. Don't take this moment away from him. And let's see Usman versus Burns in the co-main event of UFC 252. Because 252 is a card right now that needs a little bit of help. Because I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but I have really noticed this. Let me just get my schedule up here. Because the UFC doesn't update their schedule, but I update my schedule. Let me get my schedule up. Hang on a second. Where's my fucking schedule? I'm actually losing my mind here. UFC 252. We got it. We've got Junior Dos Santos versus Jairzinho Rozenstruik. Great matchup. We've got Magomed Ankalaev versus Ion Cutelaba 2. Great matchup. But other than that, we've got Stipe versus DC3 and nothing else. We need more main card fights for that pay-per-view. And we need them soon, because we've only got 5 weeks until that fight card. We need to rush. We got Stipe versus DC3. Main event. Now picture this. Usman versus Burns. Co-main event. Probably better that they're a co-main event, because then they'll get a little bit of the shine of Stipe versus DC3, because Usman versus Burns alone will sell less pay-per-views than DC versus Stipe, the trilogy, I reckon. So let's give them the co-main event. Stipe versus DC3 main event sit, UFC 252. Co-main event, Usman versus Burns. Feature fight, Valentina Shevchenko versus Joanne Calderwood. 3 title fights in one night. Slide one more fun fight on the main card, which arguably could be Stephen Wonderboy Thompson versus Leon Edwards, or Stephen Wonderboy Thompson versus Michael Chiesa, or Michael Chiesa versus Jeff Neal. Junior Dos Santos versus Jairzinho Rozenstruik to finish off the main card. Magomed Ankalaev versus Ion Cutelaba 2 to headline the prelims. Count me the fuck in. Let's do it. Let's save 252 and make the best of a bad situation, because I will watch the fuck out of Volkanovski versus Holloway 2, Yan versus Aldo. It's not the best card in the world without the main event of Usman versus Burns, but then again, you know, UFC 250 had Nunes Spencer. You know, UFC 240. We've had worse pay-per-views, and I wouldn't mind it. I'll watch the fights regardless. I don't pay for them anyway, so I'll watch them regardless. Let's just have some fun and fix 252 in the same breath. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Click that button there. Don't deny Burns' title shot. You can't do that. That's almost against his human rights. I don't think it is against any human rights, but it kind of should be, because you can't cock tease someone like that, or blue ball someone like that. It's probably a more monetizable phrase than cock tease. Goodbye. Thank you for watching. Click that button there. Burns versus Usman at 252. We're rolling with the punches. We got to keep this shit moving. See you later. I hope Dana White listens to this video and does the right thing, or just hires me as the decision maker overall in the UFC, because, you know, I think it's very clear by now, I'm the one with all the good ideas. Goodbye. Mr. Good Ideas misses the fucking stop recording button. Click that there. See you later.